Hello guys, we continue talking about behavioral change and today we're going to talk about developing new skills. There are different people in this world and each of us has their own unique set of different skills and abilities and capacities in our life and so on. And we develop our skills depending on life circumstances in which we grow up, in which we socialize, learn about the world, ourselves, other people and so on. Some of us have this idea that uh, we are a certain character, we are a certain person, like for example saying like, oh, I'm shy, or I'm brave, or I am sociable, or I am not sociable, or I am awkward, or something like that. Well, in reality, those are just labels, and in reality we can develop almost any skill in our life. It's possible. It's same as if you lift heavy weights and do and follow exercise routine, you will become stronger, you will have more developed musculature and so on. Of course there are some genetic factors that will influence the way your body will look, but still you can practice and exercise certain skills in your life, and this change your character, so-called character. Like for example, if you don't have enough social skills, you can develop them and become sociable. If you don't have enough self-discipline, you can develop self-discipline and basically change who you are. So in a way, we are what we practice, we are what we repeat many times, we are what we have as habits. And this is very important to understand because if we think in terms of labels, if we think in terms of characters, that if I'm unsociable, I can never become sociable. If I'm undisciplined, I can never become disciplined. This way we are limiting ourselves and not giving ourselves hope for change. But if we think about things in terms of skills, it really helps us. Which skills are very useful when we talk about therapy, psychology, mental health, and all that? First of all, it's emotional regulation skills. I have separate playlist about that. Then stress resilience skills. I have separate playlist about that. Um, then behavior change skills. This is the playlist about them. Then cognitive skills, intermediate, basic. I have also separate playlists about them. Communication skills, goal setting skills. What else? Many different kind of skills are forming our capacity to adapt to life, to maintain our mental health, self-discipline, by the way, as well. Ability to tolerate discomfort is also a skill. So we can have like inventory of different skills, and if they're developed, we will find it much easier to survive in this world. What is important to understand: if you don't manage to do something, if you are feeling scared or upset or anxious about something, most likely you lack some kind of skill there. Like maybe it's the skill of tolerance of emotions. Maybe it's the skill of courage when you go and face this discomfort. Maybe it's a skill of communication. Maybe you need to develop that. Maybe it's also a skill of discipline. So, and so on and so on. What is also important is not only having a skill, but also adapting it to different situations. Um, we start having problems when we have only one skill for many different situations because it doesn't work. Like, for example, if among all the communication skills you only have the skill of assertiveness and you just start shouting at everyone or standing your ground, this is not very adaptive to all the possible social situations, and this can cause a lot of conflicts and ruined relationships. So we need a variation, different skills, and we need to be able to flexibly change them from one to another. This is why I have playlists and not just one or two videos about it. Um, yes, so Now, how to understand which skills you should develop? Of course, the perfect way is coming to consultations so that I can understand it and help you understand it, asking questions and all that in individual tailor-made approach. However, you can also try doing it on your own, setting priorities. First priority is your own life and life of people around you, your own health and health of people around you. So if there is any kind of behavior or issue that is causing risk for your life or risk of for life of people around you, like for example, you don't have enough skills of emotional regulation and self-control, and because of it you might do impulsive actions, then maybe developing this skill is more important. So prioritize. We had this in the first video of this thing. Then you can also choose the form and structure of your training, because skill doesn't appear from just listening one video, it appears from repetition and training. You can use, for example, my different playlists. Each playlist is a separate training of particular skills, and it's completely for free, so feel free to use, please. Another option is uniting with your friends or people you know and practicing some skill together. Third option is finding groups, like there are skills groups, for example, in dialectical behavioral therapy, in skills groups in communication, in nonviolent communication, and so on. And there you can unite with like-minded people who also want to develop those skills and practice together. It's very useful. Yeah. What next? You can also have a plan of books that you want to read or speakers you want to listen to, and so on. I also want you to pay attention to what exactly is the issue with the skill, because oftentimes you can have different people who seem to have the same problem, but the issue is completely different. Like, for example, you have difficulty controlling your anger, and one person might have difficulty controlling anger because they do not have skill of communication, non-violent communication. So they just don't know how to communicate in a different manner. And in this case, they need to develop non-violent communication skill. However, someone else might already know how to communicate, but when they become angry, they get so triggered and so emotional that they just react, and they don't have time to remember this whole right communication, so for them we can develop mentalization, we can help them slow down and practice using communication skill in more stressful situations. So you see, in first case the person did not have the skill, in second case the person had the skill, but when situation is too emotional they are unable to access it. So pay attention to your particular situation, and step number one would be asking yourself, do you have this skill at least somewhere? For example, skill of self-control or skill of nonviolent communication. Are you able to use it? Do you know how to use it? Like, for example, you might be able to use it when you are with people you trust, when you are comfortable, and when you're not under stress. This means that you have the skill and you just need to bring it to other situations. However, if you never did something like that, if you are not having this skill at all, then it means you need to develop it from scratch. So first of all, analyzing if you have this skill or if you don't have it at all. Then if you found out that you do have this skill, but you cannot use it in new context, like for example, you are able to communicate well with your partner, but you are not able to communicate well at work with your colleagues. In this case, you need to generalize the skill. So working not on developing the skill, but on generalizing it and broadening it in new social situations. Um, then also you can analyze in which situations your skill doesn't get used because you have some kind of resistance towards it, or some kind of difficulties that stop you from using it. Like, for example, as I described, when you get very emotional under stress, you're not able to access this skill and to implement it. Or when you are talking to somebody who doesn't react to nonviolent communication, you get lost and you don't know how to proceed, for example. So the next thing what you need to analyze is what are the difficulties you might face when trying to implement that skill, and maybe work on those difficulties instead. Like, for example, if you already have communication skill but you're not able to access that skill when you get emotional, maybe better work on emotional regulation instead of communication, because you already have the communication. You just need to get rid of this difficulty with emotional regulation. Yeah. Next, what you can do is also, how to say, let me think a bit. You can also decide when and where you need to use which skill. Our brain is kind of like a computer, and when you give it certain settings and programs, it works much better. Like, for example, if you tell your brain, like, in those situations we react that way, in those situations we react in a different way, in this case we say that thing, in this case we say another thing. This way, when you have like a plan for different situations, and you repeat and repeat and practice, you become much more versatile and flexible and adaptive to different situations. And what you can be doing is that you can carry with you a card or a note, or any kind of like a plan. And when you get in a certain situation, you take out the plan, you check it out, and you do what is said in the plan. So you can just carry it around with you and practice it. And remember, there is no shortcut in here. There is no magical method to make you learn certain skill like that. You need to practice it again and again and again and again, and then it becomes natural for you. It becomes like second nature. Yeah. What else? What else? What else? Also, in order to manage certain skills, it's useful to do some modeling or role playing them before. Like, for example, if you are acquiring communication skills, it's useful to do some role playing with a friend, or with somebody in a group, like nonviolent communication group and so on. This way you can rehearse in safe environment, and then be more successful when you actually use it in real life. Okay. Then also you repeat it again and again, again and again, again and again, until it becomes habitual for you. Many people can try a certain skill, and then if it's uncomfortable for them, they say like, oh, it doesn't work, and they abandon. This is so common, but this is a trick. This is your mind trying to fool you, so that you don't change, so that you don't try new things, so that you don't have to feel some discomfort. I encourage you to tolerate this discomfort, do the exposition technique, and repeat and repeat and repeat again and again those skills, because it's really, really important. And then also, what we do is that we give ourselves some feedback when we manage to perform a certain skill, when we practice it. It's really important to reward ourselves in some way, to feel happy about it. And there you can be creative. Like, maybe you will like having, there are so many fun organizers nowadays, like with progress mountains, or when you have to paint something when you achieve something. And this kind of dedicated practice of new skills is maybe the most important on your journey of self-development, self-improvement, and so on. And actually, dedicated practice is very important in any kind of profession. Like, even myself as a psychologist, I do dedicated practice when I decide which psychologist skill I need to develop. Like, for example, I'm working on goal setting or on empathy or on asking for feedback or something else. So, in any sphere, dedicated practice is very important, and here it's important as well. I also want you to pay attention and not get stuck doing the same thing that you already can do well. This is something we oftentimes feel tempted to do. Like, for example, you are very good at communicating with your friends. So you start practicing communication skills only with your friends and avoid practicing them with your colleagues or with your boss, with your manager, or going on interviews or with your clients or something like that. This is, again, a trick of our mind that is trying to avoid uncomfortable situations, and it's important to notice and to actually pay attention not to those things that you already do easily, but to practice skills where you need improvement. Yeah, and that's more or less it. And what I also want you to know about skills is that pay attention to which skills you already have, because most of us, we have many different skills, and oftentimes the problem is not that we don't have a skill. The problem is that we do not generalize it enough. Like, for example, we have the ability to be communicating with a friend, but we cannot generalize the same skills towards a date or towards an interview with potential employer, and so on and so on. So I encourage you to try thinking which skills you already have. And instead of inventing the bicycle, you kind of just take the skill and transfer it to a new sphere in your life. Like, for example, you manage to maintain good conversations with your friends and family. You take the same skill and you practice it on dates, and it works. And also, last point I want to make is that everyone is different. So different skills are suitable for different people. Like, for example, if you have like, for example, if you need to set goals or organize yourself, some people work best when they have strict routines and habits. Some people work best when they have some degree of freedom and improvisation available for them. So when developing skills, also keep that in mind and try to develop skills that actually are suitable for you and that you like. And if you're not sure, then you can try out different skills and do this kind of like exploration, tryouts, like experiments, and write down your findings, like that, for example, this skill works for me, this skill doesn't really work for me, and so on. Yes, and I hope this was useful, and I remind you that on my channel I have several playlists, and each playlist is like different skill training which you can go through completely for free. So I really hope it will be beneficial for you, and please remember that your biggest thank you can give me is sharing my videos and my channel with your families, friends, on social media, social networks, leaving comments, likes, and so on, because for me also, I'm doing a lot of work, and I'm making an effort to film the videos, and when I see nice comments, it really is motivating and rewarding for me, and I know it's not in vain. And let me know which skills you are going to develop and how, and it will be very interesting to read. And I see you in the next video. Bye bye.